Today we're going to talk about, I guess I can't say for certain, but it's been advertised as the first theatrically released LGBTQ rom-com, which kind of made a bad choice of coming out when no one is going to the theaters to see rom-coms.
In the industry, timing is everything, and of course, in the movie they talk about content and timing as well. But we're going to talk about a movie that I don't know. People call it one of the funniest comedies of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely in contention for one of the funniest comedies, and I think after watching it now, 2 or 3 times, it's definitely knocking on the door of best comedy of the year.
Hey, today we're going to talk about Bros.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us and thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals, as well as tell us what movies we should review in the future. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours and probably their top 10s. And today we're talking about another comedy from 2022. It's Bros.
Yeah. Bobby Liebert doesn't believe in love, at least not for him. When he meets Aaron, a self-loathing gay man with his own commitment issues, they try to make it work. But they find that for all the things that they don't have in common, there's a possibility for them to grow together if they can just accept each other's flaws.
All right, so I don't really know a lot of backstories about that. We know Billy Eichner from his show going around with celebrities.
Yeah,
how much
Billy on the Street's done
Billy on
like
the
10 seasons or something like that. That's a show we my wife and I tend to go to whenever we just need something to like watch while we're eating dinner or something like that. Billy Eichner, I became aware of him on Parks and Rec. He showed up in I think the 6th season of the show. Okay, so you really had to be a fan of that show and keep watching.
This is
6
still
seasons
after
in.
he did Billy on the Street, right?
I think he had been doing that, but it was like on True TV at the time, and it was like no one really had True TV.
I think this started as a YouTube.
Yeah, I think it started the YouTube as well. So Eichner has been like slowly building up his reputation in the comedy world, popping up as secondary characters, and I think wanting to make a LGBTQ rom-com is a very notable thing to do because there just aren't that many.
And the timing is right for him to do it. I don't think it would be something that he would be doing at 30.
Yeah.
Him doing it at 40 is the right time for this. He co-written this.
He co-wrote this with Nicholas Stoller, who got famous for getting Sarah Marshall, Neighbors. Stoller has done a ton of comedies in the past decade that have been really, really funny. And I think it's a smart idea to get someone who has kind of spurred the lines of R-rated raunch comedy, rom-com kind of stuff, even though Nicholas Stoller is a straight man, to get someone who has a background with these films to make it as traditionally as you can. And the only really tweak is that we finally have a non-straight romance in the air.
Right. I'm talking about if this would work if it was hetero. And the chemistry kind of is the same. It's kind of the same. Yeah.
I think what surprised me the most is how
they make fun of Hallmark in this movie, but you're actually the tropes of Hallmark for this formula as well, right?
Yeah, well, and what's funny too is we have, co-starring with Billy, we have Luke McFarlane playing Aaron, who is known for being in a lot of Hallmark-related movies.
Yeah.
Christmas films. You can actually find, there was a video on YouTube of someone compiling all the posters he was in for these kinds of movies, and where he looks like he's in the exact same movie on every poster. And so it is funny to have someone who has kind of been known for being in these kind of schlocky, rom-coms.
Perfect casting, perfect timing. Right.
We get someone who kind of rises above, and he plays a very interesting antithesis to Bobby's character. They're both very different people.
Right, and it's almost like they're not aware.
Yeah.
We get into discovery of authentic selves, but Billy's I'm shy, but I won't talk. But he presents himself the complete opposite of what he knows he really is.
Yeah.
He's very confident, he's very out there, but also, inward, leave me alone.
Yeah. And then we get Aaron, who's someone who kind of, if he perceives anything in his life as gay, he tries to avoid it. His favorite musician is Garth Brooks. He jokes that his favorite movie is The Hangover. I don't know if that's true or not, but he jokes about it in the film. He talks about his dream of making chocolates, and he perceived that as being a gay thing. So he skirted around it and avoided it, and got this boring job because of it.
But you understand, probably as a microcosm of the gay culture, you probably have a lot of other people who are still out, but kind of suppressed, that's too gay.
Yeah.
You're right, yeah. But
well, I think that was the argument that was made for why the film didn't do all that well in theaters, and I do want to push back on that because Billy Eichner, I love Billy Eichner, by the way, but He tweeted out and said that straight people didn't come out to support the movie, and that's why it didn't do well. I went and saw the film in theaters. But what I'll say is this. The movie did not make a lot of money, which means that not only did straight people not support it, but the gay community did not support the film either. And I think part of that is because rom-coms don't do well in theaters anymore. They are on Netflix. They are on Peacock. The film is doing very well now on Peacock.
This is why I talk about comedies in a theater is tough. You're making your money on the rental sales.
Yeah.
And going to theater to see comedy, you really, unless it's, something that's just completely outrageous that everybody's buying into.
Yeah, if it's a formula that's worked, if it's a director that, if the director is the selling point of the film or the actor is someone who has headlined a bunch of comedies, sure.
Yeah,
Billy Eichner hadn't done that.
Yeah, case in point, I have a best friend. She's very much like me. She's LBG, and I told her it's free on Peacock now. Oh, great, now I can watch it.
Yeah, and I think...
Yeah.
Right now, the average filmgoer goes to 5 movies a year. 5 movies. And you have to pick 5 movies to see an entire year. Like, they're not us. We tend to think everyone sees a movie every week or everybody goes to the theater like a bunch. Like, I use my AMC list 3 times a week. Sure. We're not the average filmgoer, though.
No.
They see 5 movies, and it's probably 2 Marvels, a Star Wars, and maybe a couple of kid movies for their kids. They're not going to see a lot of these other movies. That's why these independent films do better on streaming. That's why these smaller films like comedies do better at home. And comedy is subjective. I think we've both been to theaters before. We've seen a comedy that didn't work for us at all.
Oh yeah.
I was in a theater with 2 women, older women that had decided to see this film. We ended up sitting together pretty much because we were in the small theater, and we laughed our asses off throughout the film. But if you're not sure you're going to laugh, you might not go to see it. If the trailer doesn't work, you might not see it. So.
Right, and plus this is kind of the first time Billy's carrying a movie, and a lot of people are kind of reserved for, am I going to really take the time to go see this movie? I really like him, but this is a movie still, and it's another investment. I'm waiting for somebody to say something about it.
Yeah, it's hard to make the jump from like a secondary character actor to a headliner, and Billy Eichner has been doing mostly that. The way it was introduced to Stoller was he was in the film Neighbors 2. And that film actually he played, I believe I haven't seen Neighbors 2, but I believe from the description I read that he was in a gay couple in the film. And that film as a comedy got really well regarded for the fact that it wasn't making gay jokes that were denigrating. They were seeing the gay couple as an actual real couple in the film and respecting them. And the jokes weren't about making fun of gay people for being gay. And so the film got good marks. Yeah, it wasn't punching down. That's a great way to say it. Yeah. And so that's how he met Stoller. But again, smaller character role, making the leap to big character. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it really doesn't. So I can see all this trepidation about going to see the movie. I think this one should have been on streaming.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's one of those things about, especially with movies, we're not talking about the content of the movie. We're talking about timing, promotion, and you understand what you have. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to do a big promotional theatrical, you understand as a comedy that you're missing kind of the thing. You want to get a word of mouth.
Yeah.
You want to do like Barbarian did. And make us talk about it.
I think this movie did have a small word of mouth presence where I didn't see it the first weekend. I was busy. But I made sure when everyone who saw it that first weekend praised the film, I was like, oh, I got to get in for this. Like, I got to find a time. And I specifically carved out an afternoon when I knew I could go see this movie because it had such a word of mouth presence. I don't think the film had as big of a Barbarian style one or Smile. Like, horror tends to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think, like, the more I was hearing, like, there was a really funny critic. I love this critic, Alonso Duralde, who is an out critic. He's a gay man who tends to be very, like, focused on Christmas movies. He tends to really, like, have a love for Christmas movies. And he goes, the movie understands what this gay critic loves. Gay movies, Christmas movies, Hallmark movies. You gave me my 3. And it's like, there was that presence of respect from the overall film community. It just wasn't enough to get into a theater, to really get people into the theater.
Right. And I don't know. This does have an appetite, I don't think, for a sequel. You think comedies are so good they're going to eventually have a sequel. But I think it's for standalone, I think it's a launch pad for something similar.
Yeah. It's a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Like this film, I think there was also a streaming film called Fire Island that came out this year. There was also I thought in my head about it being a rom-com, a film called Love, Simon from 2018. But that's more of a teen drama, angsty thing.
Yeah, there's really like comedy moments to that movie,
but there's also drama. Like it's really tough to peg that film down. But I do think that these 3 films are a sign that we are getting more inclusive films, for a wider audience. I just think they need more time They need more time. I think they need to kind of cut their teeth on the streaming world and then move into the theatrical, because people just don't see comedies in theaters very much. Same with rom-coms.
As well as they're not all the people there are not playing an archetype.
Yeah.
That there are authentic people, even though they have flaws. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, gay people can be assholes too.
Yeah. Well, and I think what is so fascinating about the film is, being a straight man, I don't know what Grindr is. Like, I know what it is, but like I'm never going to understand how that app works.
Correspond with somebody.
Yeah. And so like the whole ass pic thing, where they're taking pictures of their ass to show off on this app, I thought that was hilarious. We talked recently about how phones were used in Decision to Leave. I thought the way that the phones were utilized here, how like dating for a lot of these people, it tends
I just
to,
like, hey,
sup.
is this the start? Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was different. I thought between two guys, it's like a conversation, but it's pretty much, hey.
That's what's so fascinating about the film, is you see how much our lifestyles are different, but you also see how much they're very much the same. And I think that's kind of the comedic gem of the film, is that as a man who is straight, I will never understand this lifestyle because I've never lived this lifestyle.
No.
But
Yeah.
I can see it for 2 hours, and I can see how we're different and how we're the same. And
It's almost like rivalries, right? If I'm from Minnesota, but if I go to a bar in outstate Wisconsin, I go, oh, this is ridiculous. Look how silly this is. You guys are, but then it's almost exactly the
But
same.
everyone's drinking their beer and eating their cheese.
Same
which is what we
thing,
do.
right? It's the same thing almost. They go into the bar in Minnesota. Right?
Yeah,
But
it goes back to that Austin Powers line. We're not so different, you and I. Like,
Yes, yeah, and that's why we like movies about different cultures, because we learn that sometimes the differences.
yeah,
We learn about stuff, but also how very similar they are.
yep.
So up next is our review of Bros. I am never taking a picture of any of my body parts and send it to anybody, and I'm sticking with that streak.
All right.
And after seeing
as
Billy
a
Eichner,
reversal, please don't hack my phone, anyone. No, I'm joking.
Right, I know, right? Yeah, but obviously what he had to go through to do, I am not comfortable doing this. Apparently, with some kind of currency, you want to hook up, I have to see,
It's like cigarettes in prison. No,
if you want to test drive, you got to see the inside of the car before you want to test drive it.
What I appreciate about the movie so much is that it tackles ideals of LGBTQ, and it's not afraid to get raunchy with it, because there's been decades and decades of raunchy straight comedies, and I'm totally fine with a raunchy gay comedy. I'm so fine with it. I think it was hilarious. Again, going back to the things that make us different are the things that make us very similar. I mean, hell, when you see that happen, you're like, it's not something I would do, but I understand why you're doing it.
No, but the formula still works, right?
Yeah.
It's the same formula, but different people. But he's like, I'm going down with my friends, and you're like, oh, you gay guys are just going to dance with your shirt off. He goes, we're not all like that. But then he goes to the club, and like, everybody has their shirt off.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But then you have the dialogue of, there's certain subgroups of gay people. Like, oh, my God, they're annoying, and then they're annoying, and then, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but then he's dynamic. And
Yeah.
he's part of a category of people, right?
Yeah, going back to the reasons I think the movie maybe didn't perform well was that the trailer tended to denigrate straight people a lot, and I'm fine with that. I'm not a person who's offended.
Go for it, man.
Yeah, there have been so many movies that have made gay jokes, racist jokes, sexist jokes in the past. Let's flip the script. It's okay, but I do think the trailer does have a lot of like really digging at straight communities.
Make fun of me. I love mayonnaise. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, but I think that's where the film is at its strengths, is that it is basically a rom-com where they just took the female out, put another guy in, and made it, and just kind of like adapted it in that way.
And then shout and complain about the formula that you have to use for rom-coms as you're doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cabin in the Woods, or this really funny, I think this funny romantic comedy from a couple years back called Isn't It Romantic, where a character ends up getting sucked into a rom-com. And she is like existing in all the tropes. That's kind of how the film is. It's like they're making fun of Hallmark movies, and then they hit all the beats of a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. I do like that's the refreshing about it. But the co-correspondent of texting, yeah, I felt like authentic. Like, what are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really like our methods are different, but our hopes and dreams are the same. When you're single, all you want to do is hook up. And when you're at a party and you hook up with someone, I've never hooked up with someone at a party and had it lead to 4 people in a room getting a massage. But the way in which that was done, I think like some of the individual scenes are so fantastic where they're in this couple. There's a guy they know they want to get down with, and then this 4th guy just shows up, and they keep turning around like, you still here? Like, and I think those are some of the funniest scenes in the film. It's just, again, the things that I don't know much about, the things I don't understand as much about, I'm being educated at the same time I'm laughing my ass off. And that's kind of a good dual win.
And it's that pervasiveness of that you're entering a world that you don't know much about, and you're learning about it.
Yep.
But also you're learning the things that are the mechanisms, and you're like, well, that applies to everything, right? That's almost very similar, but also you go through the same difficulties. But also you have another thing of them just fighting. I want a museum, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But then they don't know how to handle all the different dynamics of having a museum.
Yeah. And I think just like how Billy Eichner kind of got his start doing a lot of smaller character comedy bits, he's really lifting up a lot of the LGBTQ comedian world.
Right. A lot of the grievances he's shouting in not the right time, they're not the right people, are things that you have to say out loud in the movie.
But he's lifting up a lot of great performances. I think the actor's name is Gary Branham. He's the bald guy who joins him at the club at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I've always thought he is fantastic and hilarious. I haven't seen him in much, but every time I see a clip of him from something, I giggle. He's hilarious. I think every line he drops in this film is funny.
Am I boring you? I just write you just got it, and then I'm boring you, or can I continue? All right.
And the scenes at the LGBTQ museum as they're prepping, we get Jim Rash, who I know from Community, he plays the dean, playing the bisexual character who's trying to convince everyone that no, he wasn't gay, might have been bi. I think those interactions are absolutely hilarious.
Right? Yeah.
There was the actress who played the gym teacher, Coach Beast on Glee. They make fun of Glee, but then they have the actress in there too.
Yeah, the coach. Right.
Yeah, with the lesbians roll out.
The one that Deborah Messing points that. Yeah. I want her to walk out.
And even having Deborah Messing, acknowledging the fact that for being gay in the early aughts in the late '90s, Will and Grace was it,
right?
That was it, Yeah.
And then she just has a meltdown.
Yep.
Right in front of her. What are you doing? You have Deborah Messing telling you.
Why did Deborah Messing tell you to go F yourself? Or just when she confronts her later on and he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Deborah Messing, it'll have to wait. And just pushing her to the side. There's
Overall,
so many
the
collections.
craftsmanship of the movie, I do like it. I do like the story arc. We know the ending of it. We know the hallmark kind of ending to it.
And it's the ending we want. It is. We don't want to be surprised by the ending here. We want something easily consumable.
And we understand they're searching for their authentic selves, their journey. Bobby comes to realization of something he needs, that he wants a partner, even though he's trying to tell him, no, I don't. And then you have the other person who wants to recognize, yes, I am gay, even though I am out, but I am gay.
Yeah.
And then you have the sequences of really, that one scene I really do like, which is well, you want to get together on time, and then, Luke's character says, and the sound actually amplifies, I'm not looking for anybody. And you see Bobby's face just deflate, oh my God, I am.
Yeah, he realizes what he wants is different than what he thought he wanted.
Exactly, right. Once again, he says it better than I do.
Yeah, and I think when I saw this film the first time, I do want to point out, I think I was a little harsh on the film because I had such glowing reviews coming from fellow critics that I went to see the film and I thought it was hilarious. I laughed my ass off the entire 2 hours. But then I came out of it thinking well, it's kind of what I expected it would be. But then I realized upon watching it, that's the point. They're not trying to reinvent rom-coms. They're just trying to showcase that we have the same stories as you. And I think that's a really clever thing. So upon watching the film a second time and then again a third, I've come to realize that it's because of the fact that it is very much like a standard rom-com, just tweaked.
That's what makes it good.
That's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
The only criticism
probably makes it when people hate it. They want something different.
They want surprise, but that's not what the film is.
Well, he says in the movie, "Why does all our stories have to be a tragic ending?"
Yeah, exactly. Just so Benedict Cumberbatch can get an Oscar. Right. I think the only real flaw I think the film has is I do think I always harp on pacing. I think the film's 15 minutes too long. I don't think it needs to be 2 hours. I think it could have come in a little bit shorter, especially with that. The ending could have been tightened up.
That little meltdown in the museum, right? We knew it was coming. It was blowing over, and then you have it, and you're like,
Although that scene is worth it for the moment where he yells out, "I'm on steroids." But
Yeah, with the flag. With the flag.
yeah, it's hard for me to want to cut stuff because I think there's a lot of funny scenes in the film. I just think it probably could have used a little bit of trimming in the editing bay. And I think you'd have a more tightened up, well-paced film. Other than that, I really liked it, though.
Had to tighten its ass.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well, that's the end of our review.
All right, see you later.
What do you think about Bros?
Oh, yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah, let us know down in the comments section what you thought about the film. Is it your favorite comedy of the year, or do you have another one that you tend to lean towards? I kind of lean towards The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I love that Nick Cage movie.
I heard it's one of those that it's acquired taste, but you got to see it.
Yeah, but the more I've watched Bros, the more I have liked Bros, and the more I've wanted to watch it again. So it's growing on me. But let us know your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, please like and subscribe. They don't cost you anything. We appreciate it. It helps us out. It helps you out. And check out that Patreon link down below.
Yes,
if you've got
please
another
do.
rom-com you want us to talk about, that's the best spot to tell us. Join the Patreon down below.
We're not going to pick a Hallmark for ourselves.
Yeah, there's no chance of that.
No.
But you can.
You definitely can.
Sacrifice a cup of coffee and join that Patreon. Thank you guys for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. And you want to try Shit Rocket?